What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and today we're looking at one of my absolute favorite data sets that we do every single month, and that is the top 10 cards that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player. And I'm telling you right now, whenever TCG Player gives us this type of information, I love sharing it with you guys, because this isn't any thoughts or feelings or any types of interpretation. This is black and white. These are the 10 cards that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player last month. And when I am looking at things from a collector and investing standpoint, and I want to look at it at a macro level, this is exactly what I want to be looking at. Now, we have done this video every single month for, I forget how long, a long time, well over a year at this point. So I have this interesting system. So you'll see on the left right there, every card that's been on here multiple months, I'm going to put the number of stars that correspond to how many months in a row the card has been on this list. Now, if you're on it 2 months in a row and you drop off on a third and you pick back up on the fourth, guess what? There's no continuation. You start back over from 1. And then, of course, we're going to look at the cards and their individual price points, but we're also, on the left-hand side, going to look at the booster box or elite trainer box that they come out of, because I think it's important to understand how the sealed product that these things come from are doing as well. So if you got the specialty sets, obviously we'll be looking at Pokemon Center exclusive elite trainer box prices. And if you got a set or a card that comes from a regular set, we're going to be looking at the booster box prices. And this list comes in 2 different forms. It comes with cards over $50 or cards under $50. And because this channel is more focused on collecting and investing, I always do the one that is over $50. So all of these cards started off last month over $50. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are some absolute stunners on this list, and I cannot wait to share this with you. But as I said a few minutes ago, we do this every single month. And if this is something you get into and you find value in and you enjoy it and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, we do fun stuff like this all the time. So hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. We got a small channel here. Those 3 small things go a long way in helping us out, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So with that out of the way, the thing I start off with every single month is, yes, it's important to talk about what's on the list, but let's talk about what has fallen off the list. And again, as I said, we've done this for over a year, and I have never had this happen. Never. We've never had this happen. Last month, the EV card from Twilight Masquerade was the #1 card, the card that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player, more than any other card, and it has fallen off the list. Now, when TCG Player sends this information out, it comes in an Excel spreadsheet, and there's 25 cards listed. It's ranked 1 to 25. I only show you 1 through 10, but as you can see on these other cards, I can talk about where they're ranked this month. Eevee went from #1 to not even in the top 25. That's never happened. That has absolutely, we've had cards go from 1 to 10. We've had cards go from 1 to outside the top 10. But Eevee went from #1 to totally off the list. That has absolutely no bearing on the future prospects of the Eevee card from Twilight Masquerade, but that is a fact, and I thought it was really, really interesting. And the other thing too, you've got the Greninja EX, the Greninja card that everybody's talking about, including myself. I talk about it all the time on this channel. Last month it was #4. This month it falls out of the top 10, coming in at #12. Now, I will say we did have Shrouded Fable that dropped, and traditionally this month is no exception. When a new set drops, you have a couple of those cards that people are scooping up as soon as it comes live. So of course we have a couple of those on this list. So in order to make room, some cards had to fall off. Twilight Masquerade, as you can see with the Carmine next. Twilight Masquerade was the set that I think a lot of people have already acquired, so they didn't exchange hands as much as some of these other cards. So Carmine right there was #9 last month, fell to #15 this month. And the Raging Bolt card that I love so much, I absolutely love that Raging Bolt card. I think the artwork is absolute fire. Went from #10 last month, and it has absolutely only slipped to #11. As a matter of fact, this card and the #10 card switched places, because last month the card that's #10 right here, the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved, was actually at #11, so those two just swapped places. And this Magikarp card has been on and off this list, I don't know, for like the last 8 months. As one would imagine, this card does sell with a high degree of velocity because it's a very special card in the Scarlet and Violet era. Paldea Evolved is a very special set, and this card, just people love it, and I don't blame them. I think the artwork is awesome. We all know that it's incredibly hard to find in good centering and good condition to submit and get a high grade. This has like a 20% gem rate on it, which is abysmally low. And if you compare that to any of the cards from the Sword and Shield era, even the worst card in the Sword and Shield era from a chase card perspective was that Giratina alt art that had a 48% gem rate, right? You got the Magikarp here from Paldea Evolved at a 20% gem rate. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this, though, and we've called it out a couple weeks ago when we did a different video this card was in, is you see it started to settle. Now, if you look at that 1-year price graph right right there, you can see that it's kind of hit these periods where it plateaus and then it spikes and it plateaus and then it spikes. Well, in the last spike, it's come down quite a bit, but we have started to see that plateau right in the $115 range. So my thought is, you know, this card's going to find support maybe at the 110 range, and we'll have to see if it has any breakouts in front of it in the future. And the other thing that I thought was really cool to call out is just look at how those Paldea Evolved booster boxes have been doing. Really strong performance from a booster box perspective from the beginning of an era like Paldea Evolved is. It's all the way up at $140 a booster box. So really cool card, really cool story behind it, and I'm very interested to see 3-5 years from now where this Magikarp card kind of stacks up in the big chase card list for whatever it ends up being in Scarlet and Violet. Next card. This Charizard from Celebrations has been on here 2 months in a row, and this is another interesting one that has kind of been on and off the list. But if you look at the 1-year price graph, it's really maintained kind of a high and a low bound. It hasn't really had these big breakout months or these big drops. It's kind of just been floating right there in that $70, $80 range for the entire year. It had some points, you know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago where it really tried to break out, but then it just slammed right back down. Now, one of the things that gives me, I don't know, caution, but there's almost 20,000 of these in PSA 10 holders right now. That is a whole lot, and I think the going rate for a PSA 10 is, I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I think it's, I don't know, I'd be guessing. I think it's around the $200 range or something like that. But I do know that when we did our deep dive video into the chase cards from the Sword and Shield era, and this was one of the ones that we looked at, you know, the PSA 10 price hasn't moved much. So it doesn't surprise me that the raw card price hasn't moved much, the PSA 10 card price hasn't moved much, but I am interested that it's been on this list, which means it's obviously exchanging hands a ton on TCG Player. Now, if you look below the stars there on the left, that is the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box for Celebrations. And over the course of the year, this thing has worked its way all the way down to about $100. And I know Celebrations was printed into the ground, and I know outside this Charizard, there's not a lot of huge chase cards, but man, what an awesome sealed product. I have one of them in my collection, and I think it's just a really cool piece of Pokemon history. Obviously, Celebrations is an anniversary set, so I think that's a really cool piece to have in the collection. The other thing that I think is really cool and has been dropping over the course of the year is this Ultra Premium collection from Celebrations. Now, you'll see last month we talked about it. I mean, it was dropping hard, and we said, hey, listen, you know, $340 is a lot of money for any sealed product, but this does have those Metal Charizard and Pikachu cards in there. It's got the Pokeball and the Pikachu Gold card in there. It's got tons of packs in there. Like, there's a lot going on, and when we think about Ultra Premium collections, we're used to some of them being absolutely printed into the ground. Celebrations was not printed into the ground. I just want to say that. Like, some people who are just coming back into the hobby, I know we're used to finding Ultra Premium collections all over the place, but the Celebrations Ultra Premium collection was not printed. It was printed in fair quantity. I'm not saying it was short printed by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly wasn't overly abundant like we see sometimes. So the boxes are doing okay. They might be starting to hit some support lines, right? And the card is going to kind of float in the middle, but really interesting to see the number of people who are buying and selling this card on TCG Player. Now, jumping into one of my favorite sets and my absolute favorite card from that set. You've heard me talk about this ad nauseum. I absolutely love this Mewtwo V-Star from Crown Zenith. And the most exciting thing to me was you see where it went through that the spike, right? First off, it's been on here 2 months in a row. Exciting, yay. But then you see where it went through this price spike, right? Like all the other alt arts did and all the other chase cards did in Sword and Shield. And then it worked its way down just like all the others did. But you know what it's doing that the others aren't right now? It's actually starting to work its way back up. I mean, that's a pretty aggressive price growth there over the last, I don't know, month, which is really cool. And it just kind of defies logic. I love Crown Zenith. It's a ton of fun to open. It's a stunner of a set. It's so deep. There's so many awesome cards in there. But it's been printed into oblivion, right? I mean, you can't deny it's been printed into oblivion. When we look at the grading report video, which we just did last week, right? You look at the grading report video, and there have been more Crown Zenith cards graded than any other Ultra Modern set, yet the prices still continue to be strong. So again, supply is only one thing. Demand can certainly outpace supply, and at least for Crown Zenith, I love seeing that there's so much demand built up for this set. Next card right here, we're getting into Shrouded Fables, so spoiler alert, these next couple are from Shrouded Fables. Not a bad thing, not a good thing, just a thing, but the Shrouded Fable coming in at number 7 was Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia was supposed to be the chase card, but I'm not going to lie to you, Earthen Vessel has taken over as the most expensive card. I don't know if I would call any of these chase cards, that's just my personal opinion, but we'll say the most expensive card. So here we got Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia. Again, no surprise. I like this card. I like the artwork a lot. I will absolutely have one in the personal collection, not because I think it's a great long-term investment, but hey, listen, I like collecting Pokemon cards. I love she's got Sylveon chilling there in the background. I'm in the computer space, so I love the fact she's cranking it out on a split keyboard right there. I just love everything about this card. And the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box is still in stock, so we're not going to look at a price graph. So if you're missing it and you want to add it to that sealed collection just to have one of them, you certainly have the opportunity to do it. Next one right here. Pheasantipity right here from Shrouded Fables. Okay, another card that started off in the $75 range, dropped really hard, but what it has done is it has flattened out at $60. We have seen cards in the past like Roaring Moon, okay? Roaring Moon came out really high, dropped super fast, but then it found its support line really early on, and it is far too early to say that Pheasantipity has found its support line there at the $60 mark, but I mean, it is absolutely flatlined at $60. So this is another thing we'll have to keep an eye on and see if maybe it's already found its support line early in its life cycle, and I don't know if it is. I mean, the artwork is pretty cool, but again, I don't know if this is going to be a big chase card further down the road. The next one right here, final one from Shrouded Fables, I promise, is Earthen Vessel, and this is the card which is now the most expensive card in the whole Shrouded Fables set. Earthen Vessel, say what you want. Hey, if you want to make a trainer card like this, if you want to make an artifact like this, you know, super valuable, then guess what? Put some gold borders around it, make it a really hard pool, put some awesome mechanics on it, and let it go to lunch. And that's what we have here. This card sitting at $67 right here, the most expensive card in Shrouded Fable right now. We'll have to see which one ends up number one in the long run, but I thought it was really cool that this card has kind of overtaken Cassiopeia. Now we're getting into the top four. I mentioned Roaring Moon early on, and Roaring Moon from Paradox Rift, a stunner of a card from an artwork perspective. It has been on here 3 months in a row, and you can see at that one-year price graph exactly what I was talking about. It has really hit $50, like the low $50 range is where this card has been settled for the last 8 months. It has tried to break out once, but it has come immediately back down, and it just seems to be leveled off the $50 mark, which I think is a very fair price for this card. I think in the long run, this is going to be one of the better cards from Paradox Rift, if not the big chase card from Paradox Rift, and we'll just have to see how it works out. Again, I really like the artwork. $50 I think is a very, very fair price for it, and obviously a lot of people are interested in it because you don't make it 3 months in a row on this list if a lot of people don't have a ton of interest in this card. Getting into the top 3, things are getting exciting. Speaking about a ton of interest to be on here 3 months in a row, imagine the type of interest you need to be on here 4 months in a row, and that is what's going on with this Charizard EX from Paldean Fates. And if you look at the 6-month graph right here, the thing I like about it is, yeah, it's super wavy, it's super choppy, ups and downs and all of that stuff. But if you were to trend line it out from where it started in March, it's directionally flat, right? It is really flat. And again, it is so rare for these new Pokemon cards to come out and find these immediate support lines. So I think this card has been hanging out in the $100, $110 range for 6 months now. And I think it just goes to speak to the amount of excitement and the amount of interest in this particular card. Again, it's been on the list 4 months in a row. But the biggest call out for me is look at the Ultra Premium. Look at the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box there on the left. It has been all the way down. I mean, again, this is a specialty set. So I think that's a big thing to call out, and I'm going to dive into that more in a minute. But the biggest thing is this Charizard. People love this card. The artwork is fire. Obviously, it's been on here 4 months in a row, so tons of velocity on TCG Player. Coming in at number 3 this month with a really strong support line. Lots to love and be excited about this card. Coming in at number 2, 3 months in a row, 151, the Charizard EX. The exciting thing for me about this card, and I talked about it on the Movers and Shakers video on Sunday, but we have noticed a lot of cards in the Scarlet and Violet 151 set, they hit these really strong support lines and these really strong resistance lines, and they just kind of float back and forth between them, just kind of merrily along their way. But if you look at the last 3 months, really since May of 2024, this card has gone up aggressively. And if you look, it's all the way up at $130 right now. This is a very strong price for a card in a set that just went through a restock. And I know the restock wasn't big or massive or anything. We didn't see new ETBs. We didn't see new Ultra Premium collections. Nothing new on the Pokemon Center exclusive side of things. So this card is kind of, I don't know, it's just transcending all of the additional flux into the market. Now we'll have to give it more time to see if more cracked and more come in, but it's really impressive. I mean, 151 is just the set of the ages for Scarlet and Violet. It's a beautiful card. Everything is right about this card, and the price is reflectant of that. And obviously, you can see the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box there on the left. My gosh, ever since January, all of 2024, This thing has been going nuts. It's been going absolutely insane. And I get questions in the comments all the time, like, are you buying more 151? I'm kind of holding myself back. If there's a restock of Pokemon Center exclusive 151 ETBs, I am going to buy every single one that I can possibly afford. But up until then, I'm not getting into the tins. I have some of them. I got some Costco bundles. I'm not buying a ton of boxes. Really, I'm just kind of waiting for either more Ultra Premium collections, more Elite Trainer boxes, or more Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs. That's where I'm going to be spending my money on 151, because I do think we're going to see more of all of those in the future. Coming in at number one, I talked about this. I talked about it when we talked about that Charizard from Paldean Fates. This is the Bubble Mew. Talk about such a cool, unique, and special card, earning its way number one to the number one card that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player last month. 4 stars, meaning it's been on here 4 months in a row. This card's getting near $100. We could have 2 cards from Paldean Fates that are in the $100 range, which is absolutely incredible. Plus, you have all the baby shinies. And I'm saying all of this because, as I referenced 2 slides ago, if you look at that Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box price, it has been working its way down for the last 6 months. The market price is $69. MSRP on that is $59.99. If these cards end up being special, if these cards really end up being $100, $120, $150 cards far down the future, I think these Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs, which have been sold out for a hot minute, it is going to be the rarest, the hardest to find sealed product, the most valuable sealed product from the Paldean Fates lineup. I think those Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes at $69 right now as a market price is an actual absolute steal. And I love this Bubble Mew. I think it has the artwork, it's got the fanfare. Like, this has the opportunity to be special in the long run. You have a beautiful Charizard sitting right there at number one. Baby shinies galore. Anyways, I'm repeating myself. I'm just telling you, I love Paldean Fates. I love these cards. I think there's a ton of opportunity. We'll have to see. The set's still too new to kind of put a flag in the sand and say it's going to be a great set. It's going to be worth a ton of money in the future. We need more time to pass. But all of the early indicators say that Paldean Fates might be a sneaky play for the long run. So, hey, listen, everybody, that's it. That's the top 10 cards. That's the ones that fell off last month. And as I always say at the end of the video, if you made it to the end and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, and if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. I appreciate you more than I can say. I hope you have an epic one, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later, everybody. Bye.